In Australia, we have KTO, Kathleen Turner Overdrive. Welcome, Lizard, Mark,
Hey, Peter.
Ollie, Aiden. Thank you for being with me today here on Indie Tea.
Thank you,
Thank
Peter.
you for having us.
We're in Los Angeles. They are spread across Australia. When I first caught your live energy, my brain went immediately to a collision between Pat Benatar and Debbie Harry. How do you feel about that comparison, Lizard?
Oh, no, it lands. It lands good.
Mm.
Yeah. So when I was growing up, Blondie was just divine as she still is.
Weird facts about Debbie Harry is remember the song The Man from Mars?
Yep.
That was actually one of the very first rap songs.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right.
Indeed. We did a cover of that for a while.
On Rapture, wasn't it? I know what we did.
That's the one.
Uh,
When I was watching Unseen, and boy, let me tell you, Lizard, wow, you are one hell of a lead woman. And what I really like, which is what this show is all about, that you're interested in building a community amongst indie artists so that we can
Yeah.
keep going. None of us have marketing budgets, and we need to
No.
we need to align with planet algorithmia. You know what I mean? When I was watching the live performance of Unseen, it was
Yeah.
amazing because I got to tell you, I'm a gay man. I couldn't take my eyes off of Lizard.
Oh, thank you. That's a compliment.
Yes.
I'll be floating around today.
But don't worry, I'm not hitting on you. One day when you guys were rehearsing, like when you all met, what was it that you said to each other that said, "Oh my God, we got to be a band"?
Well, I'll start that one off. Mark and I at university many, many moons ago were in a band together with a friend called Mel. That became KTO many, many years ago. And then life happened and careers and children and so on. And then later, when the children were grown and careers were established and whatnot, I came back onto the scene and said, I'm back. And Mark and I got together and we hooked up with Aiden, who we'd seen. Aiden's younger than us. He's an amazing bass player, as you know, and we'd seen him around the traps. And he's gorgeous, isn't he? We hooked up and it's been us three since about 2015. And Kathleen Turner, she was the it girl of the time. And then Art comes up with Kathleen Turner Overdrive.
I love Kathleen Turner.
Laughed and laughed. And the kids don't get it though, Peter.
They don't get it.
Kids don't.
I mean, Kathleen Turner, she's from a while back. She played a man, and I can't remember, but it was incredible. Well, you know, when you say young people, I'm 64. You're all younger than me. Anyway,
Right, not far behind you.
I'm definitely old enough to be your grandfather.
I am the
for the,
youngest.
was
Definitely Ollie's.
I am the youngest.
Yeah.
I'm 24 years old. Yeah.
Must be that baby face.
Yeah, I had to look up who Kathleen Turner was. I had no idea. Like,
Really?
yeah.
I can see your bass in the background. Very hot looking.
Oh, thank you.
I think I want to have sex with the bass. The album title, A Safe Space for Cryptids. I would like each of you to take a swing at this. How do you personally interpret that theme? And does it mean the same thing to everyone in the band, or is it a sort of fractured meaning?
Well, I
It's
came up
probably.
Go on, Aiden, you talk first, mate.
Well, I was just going to say, well, what it means to me, and I think a little bit the same for the rest of the band, is it describes exactly what it sort of states, really.
What's a cryptid?
Like a
Messy, big
mysterious
Jersey
thing,
devil too.
like Mothman or even Godzilla. Godzilla's a
So that's a mythological creature.
one that, you know, they're hanging out. You just because you can't see them doesn't mean they're not there.
It was so weird. I didn't look it up, and so I thought, oh, they must have made that up.
It kind of states that just being a safe space for anyone who's ever felt like they're not of this world or they're misunderstood or sometimes outcasted and just wanting to live all the same as everyone else.
I'm aware of like the elementals, and I love Shakespeare. So Ariel, the Tempest.
Yep.
That would be considered a cryptid.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. So since we have April 5th looming, and I think that might be the approximate time that you're going to air.
It's Mark's birthday.
Happy birthday.
And my mum's birthday.
April 5th? April 5th?
58.
58-year-old
On
man.
April 5th you're going to be 58. Happy birthday, Mark.
Thank you.
The lyrics of some of your songs. Now, I only saw a couple of your videos on YouTube. Now, Spotify, you have quite a bit, and I just love your sound. The lyrics, the sounds, the tracks, the sequencing, that is a sharp listener might even catch some of your nuances, because some of the nuances in your lyrics, you seem to tell a story in your songs. How do each of you bring your own individual music DNA into KTO, the recipe?
Ooh. Well, okay, well, I can only speak for myself. I've always loved playing guitar and bass, noodling around with songwriting and spending time just noodling to try and develop technique. And I wouldn't consider myself a flash guitar player by any stretch, but I just really love it. So I think it's bringing the love of the instrument and the love of the craft of songwriting to the band, and that idea to working collaboratively. Like we've always had an approach that everyone's ideas are valid. No one's ideas aren't worth consideration. It might work then when you take it into the rehearsal studio, but everyone's ideas and encouraging each other to bring the best. And so when Ollie joined us, so I'd had a little bit of experience with Ollie about a year before, jamming with him with another friend of ours, and I just thought, wow, this kid's got it, and so he brings it. And so I won't speak for him any more than that, but yeah, bringing a love of playing music to the mix.
Lizard?
Yeah, for me, growing up in the generation that I did with the punk and the post-punk and the new wave, that runs deep in my genes. And so that's what I expressed. That's what I loved. That's what I danced to. That's what I was doing from Thursday night to Sunday night out in the pubs in Brisbane and in the clubs, dancing my feet off, going to work with a hangover on Friday morning, going to work with a hangover on Monday morning, because just couldn't get enough of, hearing, Toya and The Clash and The Cure and all the bands of our time. So that's deep within me. And also within the songs that they wrote, many times there were social justice messages or reflections on humanity or the human condition and so on. So I feel that it just expresses itself out of me. That's my comfort zone.
Lizard, this question is you specifically. When you're writing lyrics, are the cryptids, which, as was explained to me, are mythological, do they serve as metaphors for something that you're working through, feeling, experiencing, the human condition in general, or do they genuinely, do you consider them real, mythological? And what is your love for this weirdness?
Well, all of the above, Peter. So a safe space for cryptids, for me, and everybody interprets things differently, was meant to represent, because the album cover shows us on our spaceship and all of the queer things, are welcome and safe with us. And that can also mean be in cases like people who have terrible self-esteem, or who don't have a sense of belonging or connectedness. So all the songs on A Safe Space for Cryptids kind of embroider that whole cryptids thing together in a way that might not be apparent to everybody, but for me, that was so like Love at the End of the Line is a story of the true story that I found out through DNA when I found out who my biological family was. It was the true story of my grandmother, who was in a domestic violence situation, fleeing that situation. So she would have felt alienated, she would have felt alone, she would have felt like she didn't belong because she had this terrible husband and this terrible home life, and so she fled. That I weave that into that whole umbrella of A Safe Space for Cryptids. And then there's the obvious ones like parasites and leech. They're the human condition. They're people that we have encountered along our way in the band.
A lot of emotional vampires in the world.
That's right, yeah. So,
well, that is it. Thank you. Wow. That's exactly what I was hoping to understand. I said something along the lines of something similar about the aloneness that we experience. I also have the belief in beings that we cannot always see with the naked eye. Like when you look out into space, we see a lot of darkness, but only stars. And people say, well, that must mean evil's winning. Yeah, but you can't see the infrared spectrum or the ultraviolet spectrum with your eyes. So you don't really know if you're seeing everything out there, right?
Ah, good point.
Is there a question that no interviewer ever seems to ask you that you wish they would ask? And if so, I will ask it now.
That's a really tricky question, Peter. You are the most cerebral interviewer that we have ever had.
That
So-
I will take as a compliment because
And this question is a question we've never been asked before.
There you go.
I can see Aiden going like that.
Yeah. Cerebral. But
Cerebral.
that's it. This question that you have asked is a question we have never been asked. And I don't know if I want to be asked this question. Oh, I'm in a mirror.
What is the quintessential KTO experience in one song that you'd want everyone to hear first?
Well, I've always loved Unseen. I think it sort of wraps up. Mark actually wrote Unseen.
Yeah.
It's his song. It really encapsulates KTO to me with all the energy, and it's about the link between mental health and homelessness. I love the chorus. I love that it's catchy, but it's punk to me. That song's very punk to me. It speaks about things that are going on in the world that need to not be ignored, particularly that topic of homelessness and mental health, which seems to get swept under the carpet a lot.
Linkin Park does that too with the mental health, because when Chester Bennington, God rest his soul, that was something he struggled with, which was mental instability. In 1985, what actually pushed four school friends to start the Creeping Candies?
It took some time to get the punk movement going in our city. But the idea of punk that you don't have to be good at your instrument. We were more into like music from the 60s, but that didn't matter. We took some instruments and started it. Yeah.
Your debut album, Lesh, came out just a year later in 1986. Now that's pretty fast. How did the band manage to pull that off so fast?
It was like by chance, because to get some gigs, you had to organize them by yourself. And we knew if we would organize a gig in a venue we found a cool venue, nobody would come. So we organized bands that we liked and we could pay, play there, and we played as a support in front of them. And one of these guys we met by organizing these concerts was Nicky Sudden. He was from from London, and he was a friend of the Stones, especially from Mick Taylor and.
When you say the Stones, you mean the Rolling Stones?
Yeah, the Rolling Stones. He
Mick
was a
Jagger?
big friend.
Mick Jagger?
Yeah, he knew Jagger and Richards too, but he was a big friend of the other Stones, the not so famous ones, like Mick Taylor, who was a guitar player in the 70s.
I don't know.
Ronnie Wood, he was a good friend of Ronnie Wood. And so he was a cool guy, a man who did a time travel from the 60s in the 80s, and was dressed like an English gentleman and stuff like that. And he liked the Candies and this fresh and not perfect way of just jumping on the stage and play. This was like when he realized they are really young guys, like 17, 18, and they want to do this stuff and not the normal post-punk or
Right. Was there a moment during the earlier shows where you realized that this band was going to get real attention? Because you do. SPEX magazine called you the spearhead of the South German independent.
Yeah, that was
split during the kind of the peak of your success. What actually happened? What caused the rift?
Yeah, it was too much, too quick. After 2 years of playing all the time with not enough money, being on the road and having jobs by by the
Right.
way.
Got to pay the bills, of course.
Yeah, pay the bills and stuff like that.
How old were you when that all took place? You know,
Nine,
everything got terrifying.
19,
You were
like that.
19?
Yeah.
Wow, that's young. I mean, I was starting to play in bands when I was 17. It didn't get, well, I was in cover bands all the time. We never did original, but I think things started to get like a little bit, well, popularity is overrated. But do you think
So
things would have turned out differently if the band had stayed together longer in the original lineup, like the 90s revival, or give me a spin on that.
hmm, I don't know.
Or
First lineup had this old organ, like nobody had that. It was like a cheesy Forfisa organ thing, a bit Doors style and stuff like that. And a lot of people loved that because of the Doors look-alike, because it was the 60s psychedelic stuff. And maybe this would have given the band more of a continuity, but they split up and they, for a long time, never talked to each other. The first bass player and Hölle, they can't even talk in these days. We met.
really, 40 years together and all this happened.
uh,
When the band came back to life with the Canadian songwriter, Brother John, it
yeah,
was his arrival in Augsburg. That's an unusual catalyst. How did that collaboration start?
it was by chance because the second bassman, Pulle, who's still the bassman, played bass since 1988 when they had the biggest shows, like big venues, really well-known venues in Germany where big bands play, and they played them and they were packed. And Pulle jumped on board and played with the Candies. And then 1990, after another big show, they said, okay, what we need now is a break. And then this break took till 1996.
You were touring as like Brother John and the Creeping Candies?
Yeah, and then Pulle was asked by a friend, hey, we got this singer-songwriter from Canada. He's moved to Augsburg and he wants to have a band to play with him live, and we want you to play bass. Do you know any other musicians? So he called the Candies and said, hey, boys, no problem, no pressure, because we are the band from Brother John. We play his songs, and it's not about us, it's about him.
Right.
And that's where it started, and fun came back
That's
to the
good. I was doing a little research and I remember that Nicky Sudden produced a few of your albums. What did he bring out in your music that maybe another producer did not or wouldn't have?
confidence. I think it was a lot of confidence that he gave to the band. And he said, hey, boys,
My
we
child.
we rent a studio, we go there, but we don't do the bullshit studio thing, because by that time in the late 80s things were really getting weird and people tried to play perfect and editing and stuff like that. He wasn't that kind of guy. He was a 60s guy. Try to get the right moments, and that's what we do when we go to the studio. Since then, we try to record a really good moment, try to do several runs.
When Nicky passed away in
Yeah.
2006, how did that affect you personally, the band, musically?
Well, Nicky had drug problems for a long time. He was like real rock and roll guy, and the real rock and rollers were talking about sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And he took it serious with the drugs and was addicted to heroin. And it was a very tough life he lived. for and so he died after a show he did in New York. He finished the show, went to the hotel and died, and we didn't record the last album, which was from 2005 when he was still alive, together with him, because the album from 2001 when he was in the studio with us, it was completely different to those albums in the 80s, because he was really, really heavy on drugs, and he was
Wow.
like
I'm very sorry to hear all that.
in the corner and stuff like that. But he listened. We thought the guy is gone. He doesn't. He's not the same as he used to be.
Well, you had like lineup changes, long breaks, reunions, and yet the band still exists 40 years later. What kept pulling you back together?
It's very simple. We love to spend time together. That's it.
Does the band like, okay, compare your band today to the dynamic you had many years ago? What's different about the Creeping Candies?
I would say it's better because all the egos are gone, and we meet because we want to meet, and we spend time together because we want to. There's no pressure. The only pressure that there is the pressure that we do to ourselves, and so
Age humbles us, doesn't it? I was talking with Joe
yeah,
Punk about that. It's like, I'm 64. The older I get, the less I know. When I was 24, I knew everything.
yes, you do everything, and and yeah. What is funny is that we feel much freer to do what we want to do. So in the early days, there was like, if you were like the Creeping Candies were a freak among all these post-punk bands,
Mm.
because nobody did like 60s style music.
Oh, you got a little bit of everything. It's punk. There's even a tiny bit of country here and there. I'm just
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
weird for a country. You know,
Call it group country.
yeah, I was like, wow, that was weird for punk.
Yeah.
I've read that critics often compare our sound to Lou Reed, Iggy Pop, and the Stones, like you mentioned earlier. Do those comparisons sound right to you?
That's okay. Sometimes compares to the Dire Straits, and
Dire
that's
Straits.
Dire Straits, yeah.
Money for nothing and your chicks for free.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's funny. We don't agree, but we love Lou Reed. We love Iggy Pop. No, yeah,
Gravitated right to like, I got to interview these guys. I'm so glad that you spoke English too, because
yeah.
I don't know how to do the interpretation thing. We're not going to do an interview with Google Translate.
No, that
Your
would be boring.
songs, Creeping Candies, your songs,
Yeah.
they've now crossed over 100,000 streams on Spotify, and your YouTube channel has tens of thousands of views. Does that kind of a digital audience feel different from the old underground scene?
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. Because you can see, oh, there's a lot of people over in the USA
I love
who,
you. I mean, I know lots
yeah,
of people here are
we are
listening to you.
talking. That
Yeah.
wouldn't be possible without these digital stuff. And we came late to the party because we decided to go to Spotify and YouTube, like, I don't know, maybe not, not maybe 10 years ago, maybe
Hey,
less.
I only went on a year ago. I mean, I took a hiatus for almost 30 years from music. I was married. Long story. That's in one of my other episodes. But I know, I mean, I went last year. I just discovered the whole world of DAWs and doing collaborations, remotely dropping your stems in Dropbox as long as you start at the very beginning. And it's bizarre. I mean, I've done collaboration with people I've never even met.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really kind of cool. So this is the 40-year anniversary for the Creeping Candies, which includes books, releases, and live shows. Did you ever imagine the band would reach a milestone like that?
No, nobody cared about that by that time. I think years ago, everybody thought, okay, by that time we are old, we can't do it anymore, we won't do it anymore. Nobody would come to any concert to listen, but so time has
Well,
changed.
with the advent of all of this digital, like right now, you're in Los Angeles and I'm in Bavaria. It's like, wow, I never even thought this would happen. So the band Birthright from England.
Hello. Yeah, you're right.
For people discovering Birthright for the first time, how would you describe the band today? Because you've been around for a while.
In various forms, yes.
Yeah.
It's a good question and a difficult answer to be given. How would you describe it, man?
How would I describe it? I don't know, because I mean, this is the only iteration of Birthright that I've ever been. You guys have obviously been at this a lot longer than I have, but it's something a bit different, something a bit off the wall. You're trying to push something new, but you're keeping that kind of, you've very much got your old school kind of punk roots. And I don't know, just something a bit different, really, from what you tend to hear nowadays a lot.
Not particularly mainstream, I don't think. We don't try to be
No.
particularly mainstream. And you've obviously
Yes, I do agree that you definitely are striking. And
yeah.
Birthright was definitely something. And you and I were talking, Erasmus, about I can imagine what you guys are like live, because I was listening to all your stuff on the streaming platforms.
Load is definitely the case.
Layers, yeah.
But I think musically, equally, you've listened to a lot of tracks that we've done, and they're all different to each other. So that's what makes it difficult for us to say to anybody else we are A, B, or C, because track 1 can be A, track 2 can be C, track 3 can be F. It depends which way the writing goes at the time that we write on the night. Yeah.
Birthright has lived through several different eras and lineups. The current version of the band, as you said, Marcus, that you're not any one thing, and it's kind of hard to categorize you. But when you're playing live, your musical roots go all the way back to like the glam rock, the punk rock explosion of the 70s. What was the moment when music stopped being something that you listened to and became something that you had to do?
For me, it was probably about 1979 and the Pistols and all that sort of, well, 76 really, and the Pistols.
Sex Pistols, yes.
And being at art school at the time and the opportunity to experiment with stuff, I suppose, and meeting up with other guys who wanted to do things like that, because there was a route became available to do it where you didn't have to be David Bowie or Roxy Music, or you could be you. Whether that was good or whether it was bad was neither here nor there, but you could go out and do it. So I think that's probably where it started for me.
It's interesting that you mentioned those two, Roxy and Bowie. I hear influences of it, but you don't sound like either of them. You have a very original sound, which is something I'm always looking for. I love that about you guys.
I think that the glam thing's something in the way I write anyway, because I like to sort of tell stories and do all of that sort of stuff, rather than just think about girlfriends and boyfriends and whatever. And so it's story writing to music, really.
Yeah.
And trying to get to sound, to visually get something in sound, so that you can see what it is that we're playing or what we're singing about. If it's about the trenches, you can sort of try and get a visual image in your head of what that is. So that's where it is for me. But that's a Bowie thing or a Brian Ferry thing. It's the old school of writing, really, and performing rather than just playing. It's a performance. It's an art.
Yes, in fact, a few bands that I have interviewed have always said to me that yes, we can be on streaming platforms. Yes, we can do videos, but you're not going to get a really huge following unless you're playing live, right?
Mm.
So directing this one at I think Erasmus, you told me a great story about skipping school to buy the Sex Pistols' "God Save You."
Yeah.
What did that moment feel like for you at the time? I mean, did it excite you? Did it inspire you to write? And did you do the same thing, Marcus?
Is this skipping art school to buy God Save the Queen, was it? Or was it, I can't remember which one it was. But we got interviewed in HMV why we'd come out to buy it, because we were at that time we were the first people to go into, was it HMV? To go into HMV and buy that day to buy the single.
Yeah.
And there was a radio people there sort of looking, so can we interview why you bought this single? And
Okay.
no, we were just in the queue to buy the single, and they said, could we, because we were the first ones to go in and buy it, why have you bought the single? And the answer was to piss my mum off.
You get in trouble for skipping school?
That's what punk was. It was
1977 or 78.
when they released God Save the Queen, so that's sort of 77, isn't it?
Yeah.
You did get in trouble. I mean, that's what punk rock is all about, is getting into trouble.
No, I didn't get in trouble.
I was going to ask you if his influence, shaped the direction of Birthright.
No, not particularly. I mean, they went pretty much down the goth scene. They the Godfathers of goth, I believe.
I remember that movie. They opened the Hunger with Bella.
They did.
Dead.
They did.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, I was like nuts over that.
I think their version of Ziggy's probably better than the original version of Ziggy, but keep that to yourself.
Oh,
But at the time the Bauhaus were operating in Northampton, there was also alongside that a very active punk scene. So Bauhaus themselves saw the punk scene but didn't want to do the punk thing. They wanted to be a bit more. They were into Bowie big time. So it was, Pete Murphy's. He loves Bowie. You can tell that from the way he acts, everything he does was Bowie-ish. But certainly they wanted to do something different, where the rest of us were still doing like 3-chord wonder stuff. So, but I saw them do Bela Lugosi at the Northampton University, and that was quite interesting because everybody walked out. But there you go, they made it big.
Before Birthright, there were bands like the Aliens, Zyklon B, and the wonderfully named Benelin and the Night Nurses. Those early bands teach you about being in a band.
It gave the opportunity to be creative and to go and perform. And to me, music is the performance bit. We all like writing material, getting material together. But the ultimate, and for me in particular, I don't know about these two guys, is that 40 minutes where you stand in front of somebody and do your thing.
Right.
And then if you get a good response to that, there's nothing, because you never get paid for doing it. So the payment is a psychological one in terms of people saying, I really enjoyed that.
The rewarding emotional experience.
That's all it is to me. These two guys will probably tell you a different story, don't they? They're after cash, these two. No, they're not.
Yeah, I'm still waiting. Pay up.
I don't tell them I get paid and keep the money, but there you go.
Where's the bounties from? Don't upset your friend.
Sorry, carry on, Peter.
No, it's okay. Were you already writing lyrics back then, or did that come later?
It sort of came later because the first band, the Aliens, that I was in, they just needed a singer, and I thought I'd have a go. I'd never done it before. Thought I'd have a go, and they were mostly doing covers, 60s.
Yeah, I was in cover
like
band.
that, but in a punky way. So there wasn't a need to write at that point.
I was writing a lot of original stuff, but when I was in bands, we didn't play any original stuff. It was all cover. I was in 3 different bands, like back in New York. And
but the next band to that, like the National and Zyklon B, were more original music. So we fundamentally went out to start a band to do original punk music, original that is, but original lyrics, original tunes. So that's where it started. It started after the Aliens, really, because I was just an added member to an already established group.
I feel the same way about being an added extension of the indie community with this show, because the whole idea of the show is to get involved with the indie community so that we can help one another and align ourselves with the algorithms, because none of us have marketing budgets. And if you introduce me to your audience, I introduce you to my audience, and then we spread the love. That's how we align with the algorithms. I mean, I know myself, it's beginning to work for me. I only started getting back into professional recording back in May of 2025. I was on hiatus for almost 30 years. I mean, I was signed with a record label back in 1988. I had 1 album, didn't do really well. It actually sold at a really weird city called Geelong in Australia. I'd never even heard of it. But anyway.
Yeah, we're popular everywhere else apart from England.
Well, here you are in LA with me.
Strangely enough. But I think what you said about that community thing for indie bands is really an interesting and important thing, and it's one of the reasons that we wanted to do what we're doing tonight.
Yeah.
With you, is
Why
to
I
be
call it?
part of that greater community. Because I don't know what it's like in the States, but in England it's quite isolating, isn't it? Being an original band,
A little bit. Yeah.
it's very difficult. I don't know what it is, whether they try and keep themselves to themselves. They don't. Community isn't a great thing, is it? Over there.
It's changed a lot
Yeah.
because the DIY ethic was there at one time with original bands. We kind of helped one another out and all that. But now it's almost it's like every man for himself. So at one time you'd be like, you do a gig with bands and they got a bit of gear that they missing or it's broke or can I borrow your amp? And it'd be like, yeah, carry on, borrow mine. Like now it's like, no, you go borrow mine, mate. Well, you might break it. Okay.
See, borrowing. When I started, we were stealing stuff.
Well, but so I think it's kind of lost some of that DIY bit where the bands was helping one another out. Some of that seems to have gone more recently. And
I think.
I don't know if that's the internet generation.
Yeah, I was going to say. I think there's become a bit of an over reliance on like online activity and social media because it's like you lose that kind of word of mouth connection because everyone's like, well, I don't need to connect with other bands because we've got a Facebook page or we've got like a website or whatever. And then I think there comes a point where you realise just because you're online doesn't mean you don't need a community behind it, which leads to podcasts like the one you're doing now. It's like you're rebuilding that community just through an online platform. So
Right.
that can only bring around good things, in my opinion, anyway. So
I mean, I'm very humble. I mean, I'm like probably the dumbest person in the room because I'm just getting back into, professional recording last year. You guys have been doing it for decades. And
Thank you. Thank you for that.
What? It's true.
We've been doing it decades, yeah.
Well, I mean, Birthright originally grew out of the Nas, and itself it references, Bowie's Ziggy Stardust, and I was going to ask you, did Bowie influence the direction of the band's identity?
I think the image thing for Birthright was me and John were in bands 25 years ago. We were writing music together and struggling to get gigs, would you say, with what we were doing? But at one point, I mean, we broke up and reformed or whatever, but John will probably tell you better. But at one point, we sort of discovered steampunk, sort of discovered that as a visual thing. So we thought it looks quite cool.
It does.
And steampunk was a relatively new thing at that time, wasn't
That
it?
would have been 2010, wouldn't it?
2010, something like that. So we thought we'd, what's the best way to put it? Dress up,
Adopt it.
adopt the style.
Yeah.
Didn't alter our music, adopted the dress style, and instantly got gigs where we weren't getting them before
Really? So you think
because of how we looked.
so
the
the
jeans
costume
and t-shirt
itself,
thing,
like if you
something
walked in
different.
with your tie and your vest right now, they'd look at you and go like, no. But if you walked dressed in steampunk, they'd go, oh yeah, you come
Yeah,
here.
yeah. It didn't matter what you played, how you played it, what you
Presentation.
were singing about, as long as you looked right.
Presentation.
Yeah, presentation.
is
But that's the bit I learned from the Bowie thing, because in my head, if Bowie had gone out in 72, 73 doing Ziggy Stardust tour in jeans and t-shirts, everyone would have gone, that's all right. Just another bit of rock and roll. Because he put a dress on,
But he walked out like an alien.
walked out like an alien. So some of that's rubbed off in trying to perform, to put on a show. I think people don't put a show on anymore.
Oh,
The
yeah.
four guys in jeans and t-shirts and no visuality to what they do.
Unless, of course, you're really, you've got a lot of money and you can do like a Ramstein kind of concert with, fire blazing in the background.
Yeah, but you've got to be at the top of the game to do that. But equally, a lot of those people, don't really think it's necessary.
No, I mean,
To me, the art of being in a band is not just about the music; it's a visual thing.
Yeah.
And that people will go away from your gig think not really listening to what you've done, but go, well, see what he was wearing, and some of that rubs off on people, and that's where you start getting a bit of following from, I think.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's like if you go to a live performance by any band, they can play like the best band in the world, but you can still walk away from that thinking, well, I could have just listened to the CD. You've got to give them something visual. You've got to give them something that makes them think, I'm glad I came to see this rather than just listen to it.
So it's an experience.
Yeah, it's an experience rather than just an audio track.
It's when you say that, isn't it? Because I've been to see a band.
Yeah.
I haven't been to hear a band. I've been to see a band, and not that many people do that anymore.
No, they don't.
They might get loud, they might get a crowd going, but there's nothing to look at. So
Johnny,
Yeah.
25 years developing songwriting partnerships, right? With these guys. What made that partnership work creatively?
Well, as I say, we touch on the Bowie thing. I suppose when we met up originally, like, because he was looking for guitarists when he got the Nas together. So when I joined that, the interesting thing for me was it was a strange band in that they had two keyboard players and no bass player. So they got a singer, two keyboard players, and a drummer, no bass player, and they needed a guitarist. I think the common connection again, the Bowie thing was for me. I was like Tin Machine. That was the thing that did it for me.
I saw them.
I
I
know
saw them at the
Bowie, to
Hollywood
be honest,
Palladium.
but the Tin Machine thing that ticked the boxes because Rubes Gabrel's a great guitarist, and I'm like, yeah, I like what he does. And that's where we kind of come together, I suppose. So, because we got that connection, and that's why it probably worked. So, from then onwards, it fits. Like, I mean, what I listen to compared to Alan is probably completely different to him because I come from like metal and classical and progressive rock and all kinds of stuff. I listen to them everything across the board, even things like dubstep, jungle. I listen to anything electronic music, wherever. So I get my influences from everywhere, really.
What's
And then
your classical influences?
I think, stuff like Paganini, Bach, like Vivaldi, all that kind of stuff. Like I like that kind of stuff.
is this how, John?
Yeah. So I get that from growing up from like around my parents because obviously my dad like was into a lot of stuff like the Beatles and stuff in the 60s, but he also likes like country rock stuff. So I picked up stuff like the Eagles from my dad and whatever. But there was also like classical music in the house because like sort of my grandfather like he was a tenor opera singer like so I get classical music from bits of that. Like.
So at one point, Birthright adopted that steampunk style on stage, which is, you told me where the idea came from. And one of the recordings featuring Maggie Ronson, Ronson from Bowie's Spiders from Mars, right?
Yeah.
How did that collaboration happen?
Oh,
that was our manager, Steve Blackmore, when he managed Maggie Ronson, didn't he?
We at one point for a short time we had a manager in London called
Steve Blackmore.
Steve Blackmore. No.
Steve Blackmore, yeah.
Did you ever the Live Aid thing when Phil Collins flew from A to B and he was interviewed?
Yeah, I watched that with Freddie Mercury. Queen's like one of my favorite bands. So yeah, I could
the interviewer was Steve Blackmore.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
And he also used to manage a flock of seagulls when they were doing their thing.
Frankie goes to Hollywood.
And the most interesting fact was that he used to be Kate Bush's first boyfriend.
So.
I don't think there's any less desire for original music, but there is less opportunity for it. I mean, I don't know how things are over in the States, but here in the UK as well, with the way things are going with like budgets, tax, and the fact of the matter is, things are getting quite hard for live music venues to run a business with a decent profit margin. So I really get the feeling they don't want to take chances on originals bands. They want covers, they want tribute acts, they want the music that they know that everyone's heard 100 times before, that they know is going to get people into the venue and is going to make them a profit.
I did a collaboration with a flyer. I did Sweet Transvestite from the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Now, I've also done a bunch of original music. That one gets more play than anything.
Exactly. Yeah. And this is it, because like you can't really blame them. They've got a business to run. They want to make sure they're running a profit. A lot of musicians, they want to make a few quid. They want to make a bit of money while they're doing it, and people are, because they know they're going to make the money, they're going to the profit margin, they are going to pay for covers bands. So being an originals band is a lot of risk that people seem reluctant to take. So there are plenty of them out there, and I think people are as interested in it. They're no more or less interested in it now than they always have been. But the deck is kind of stacked against you as an original band a little bit, or at least that's the way it feels, given the current economic climate, shall we say.
Yeah. Hey, let's fast forward. Let's fast forward to 2024. When you reconnected with, was it Phil, I think, online?
Yeah.
Realized, that, well, that sounds like something out of a movie. It's like all of a sudden, there he is again, How did that conversation turn into a new band?
You tell me, I'll tell you. But me and John were in doing some stuff pre-COVID, wasn't it?
Was that about 2018?
2020. We split up sort of
Yeah.
19, didn't we?
Somewhere.
Just before COVID came, we stopped doing it, which fundamentally wasn't a bad thing because we couldn't have carried on doing it through COVID anyway.
That must have been a tough time for a lot of live bands that were, thriving on live. And then here
a
comes
lot of it went
COVID. We're now
online.
living in a science fiction horror film and everybody's walking around with masks.
Yeah.
It doesn't end in 2 hours,
Doesn't seem real nowadays, but it certainly was happening. So it wasn't a great loss to us because we weren't doing anything musically through that time, and had no intention of doing anything musically again. Being fairly obnoxious most of the time, that's probably what. But yeah, so we just gave it a go. We looked around for various people, guitar players, bass players. Well, not bass players because we got on, but drummers. Found Mark. Started with a different guitarist that it didn't sort of come, and then I asked John if he wanted to have another go, and he went, I don't know. I don't know, really.
Yeah.
Because he'd been doing some other projects as well, hadn't you?
Correct, yeah. I was doing a duo, Hagleywood Vampires, with Kate on vocals. So that was an electronic kind of goth project we was doing. So I kind of just sort of finished that, like, because we brought that to an end, and I was like, do I want to do music? I was in that kind of position where I don't really want to do anything at the minute kind of thing. And he kept on bugging me, and I'm like, no, I don't want to do nothing. Like, I just want to break from this, like. But anyway, in the end, it kind of worked out. But again, on about that connection, Mark and myself worked together previously, as you mentioned, the COVID thing. In 2019, both Mark and myself formed a band called Vampirica, which was a kind of a gothic metal type band.
Yeah, you really wanted to do. Yeah, you really, you really wanted to do a sort of gothy twinge band with a female vocalist, didn't you? Because it was something different to what you'd done before.
Yeah.
And you recruited me because I've been in a band called Primer several years before, which was that sort of thing, female vocals, a bit more Kate Bushy kind of stuff, really. So yeah, and then when Vampirica didn't work out, which we had a lot of difficulty caused by COVID, didn't we?
But we got through it. Then
we soldiered on, and we did a fair few gigs. To be honest, to say we were dealt a rough hand, but we played it pretty well. Yeah, it was just kind of coincidence that I was headhunted by a local contact that we've got. I'll give him a shout out, actually. A guy named Ivor Robinson, who's very well known amongst local bands in our immediate area. Sure. Yeah, and he messaged me saying he's still looking for a band because I know a guy who's starting something up, and he's looking for a drummer. And he put me in touch, and I was like, oh, I know this guy. He's the guy from Johnny's old band. And yeah, so it's weird how it all kind of fit together.
We're all intertwined through the years, yeah.
You said the new version of Birthright has kind of a different sound. If you could tell me a little bit about the way the chemistry was versus how you've evolved to where you are today. Could you talk about that?
I suppose that's the thing, because you work with so many different guys, like I said, the sound always changes. I mean, I think the previous version, like the last version before we kind of split, so about 2018, you had like Ron on drums, like who come from a kind of jazz blues background, but a damn good drummer, like. And then you also got like Mark on the bass. Again, he was a great bass player. So that was almost at that point, I would have said out of the lineups that we had musicianship-wise, I would have said, you know what, this is like the best version we've got, like. And it's almost a shame we come to an end, but it just did. But then again, it's like now it's kind of reformed again. The musicianship is just as good, like. So and everybody brings something different to the table because they've got different influences and different personalities, like.
It's a bit like going back to that, you go back to Bowie again for some strange reason, but
everybody goes back to Bowie.
Everybody goes back to Bowie, but every time Bowie comes out with a new album or a new tour, he's got new band members.
Yeah, new iteration.
If you want.
It's just about how the sound of the band evolves because you've got different people.
Yeah.
Fundamentally playing the same music in their own style.
Right.
It ultimately puts a different drift on it. So we can play songs that we wrote 20 odd years ago that don't particularly sound like they did 20 years ago. They sound like they do today.
So is Birthright going in a new direction with your original work, especially now that you were saying, still cover bands are still dominating, but you're still doing original work and you're still pushing on.
Yeah.
Is that working? I mean,
Yeah.
I'm
We've
hoping that I
obviously,
can help you do that. I'm hoping this show will help you.
yeah, yes, you can help us do that. I mean, obviously, when we first started, the easiest thing for us to do, especially when John came back, was to revisit a lot of this, because me and him write everything in the first instance.
Johnny?
I write the words, he writes the music, and it sort of works. So we revisited a lot of that stuff, but now we've started writing as a whole band new material. So it's 50-50 really, isn't it? Because new material is important to us because we don't want to rely on everything we used to do. But equally, what we used to do is too good to throw away.
I love your stuff.
We've got about 3 hours worth of music, and it's no good throwing it away because it was written 20 years ago. Do you know what I mean? It's still as valid now as it was then, and still as powerful. In fact, probably more so because the drum and rhythm section is a lot more powerful than we've ever had, which has made it a lot of more of a rocky set.
It's because I am, and I guess the Phil as well. It's more like a more classic rock in our drum. Where you mentioned your old drummer was he was a bit more jazz, and I've heard yeah.
What comes first when you're writing? The music, the lyrics, or the concept? Johnny?
It could be anything really. I mean, it might be, I don't know, I might just start playing something on the guitar and these guys will be, hang on, keep playing that, like he'll look through his book of lyrics and find that fits. It may be Mark just starts some drum pattern, we jam over that. Like say, Alan might just come out with, oh, you know, I've got these lyrics, I've had this idea, can you come up with something to this? It can come from anywhere really.
It differs from song to song, doesn't it, really? We don't really have a set process, and I think that's one of the reasons we work so well together, because it's a very kind of laid back atmosphere when we're.
It ain't being forced. I think like we've got to write this particular song, right? I think like when I did like the Gothic duo thing, that was because we'd got a specific goal in mind because we're trying to fit a particular genre. So you've got to write towards keeping your songs in that kind of genre that will fit to the kind of this is what people are going to like. You know, but with what we do, because it can be off the wall, it's just throw wherever you like, and if it works, it works.
Yeah.
I mean, there's certain things that have a little bit of a concept, isn't it? We do a song called Zyklon B, which, as you know, is the gas that they used to kill the Jews with. But it's not in favour of Zyklon B. It's anti the use of this stuff.
Right,
and
it's anti.
Because of the nature of its content, it fitted a pure punk. 3 minutes, bang, 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 bang.
That's
you know what I mean?
That's arguably the most punk one we do.
Because some of the lyrics about like stormtroopers marching down the hallway and all that stuff, so it needed that sort of punky drive. Really.
It's an exaggeration, isn't it? It's a song about government overreach.
It is
basically.
Yeah. I'll sometimes hear something somebody said on the radio, or somebody else has sung a line, and it will stay, and then I'll sit down, I'll write that line down, and then it goes.
I did a song I'm working on with Joe Boo. It's called Eleanor Crossing the Water. And I was watching this movie, The Lion in Winter, with Katharine Hepburn. And Peter O'Toole says something like, did the channel part for you when she's coming down in her barge, crossing the water? She says, no, but it went flat when I told it to. I didn't think to ask for more. I just remember that. I'm like, I got to use that somehow.
So I think ultimately there's no major concept to what I write lyrically. And often when I've finished writing it, I sometimes don't have an idea what it's about. I'll make something up. And
I've said it 100 times. John's going to get fed up of me saying this because I keep saying it, but I always say that like songs aren't really written; they're grown over time. You know, you'll have an idea, you'll write something, you'll add to it. You'll be like, no, maybe I'll change that bit. And because we've had it with songs we've written, haven't we, John? Where within like 6 weeks, it sounds nothing like it did when we first started. So
I think songwriting. It's a funny thing. It's not. The analogy to the art world for my songwriting is like abstract art, where it sort of just grows from what it grows from, rather than saying I'm going to paint a picture of that watermill or this bunch of flowers or whatever. It's an evolving thing that grows, and we write fairly quickly, don't we? We know if it's going to work within a few 2 or 3 plays of it. We might not have the finished version, but we know whether it's worth bothering with. And that's another Bowie analogy. Was it when he goes in the studio? Was it 3 attempts? If it's no good, out. That's what he used to do, apparently. You've got 3 goes at it, boys. If it don't work, we ain't keeping it.
You know, one of my favorite Bowie albums, which not too many people are, I don't know if they know or not, Low.
Yeah.
Oh my God, the Subterraneans, I want that played at my funeral.
The Brian Eno thing, yeah.
Yeah, God, I love that. You know,
Yeah.
all right, what can listeners expect from Birthright in 2026? Is there new music? Is there touring, world domination?
I'm just called the band eclectic and be done with it.
Indie artists watching this show right now, what's the one thing you've learned from decades in music that they should know?
Should we give an answer each as to what we think?
Yeah, sure. I mean,
Run the question again. Who's the question?
okay. So for indie artists that are watching right now, what's the one thing you, all 3 of you, have learned from decades in the music industry that they should know? Particularly indie artists, because there are, you know, people who are not with record companies. What could you say experience that they should know now in the industry in 2026 that would help them? Because we're about helping the community.
I don't know whether it helps, but they should know it's not a quick fix. It's not an instant road to fame and fortune. It's hard work. It's tiring. It's irritating. It's frustrating.
But it's fun as hell.
But it's as fun as hell, and you shouldn't give up on what dreams you've got, basically.
Wonderful. Johnny?
John, you got
Yeah, definitely, I would have said the same thing. After doing it for so many years, it's that tenacity of like, you know what, I'm just going to do this regardless of how many people say, no, you'll never do that. Or it's like, you know, I ain't a young guy now, but the amount of people you'll get with, well, you shouldn't be doing that at your age. Well, why shouldn't I at the end of the day? So it's just stick at it. It's like that's what you believe in, and just believe in it and just go for it and ignore everybody else. Because it don't matter if people don't think you're very good or you don't think you're very good. There'll be somebody out there that likes your music regardless of what you think or they think. You know, because there's a lot of probably a lot of bands out there where I think I listen to them and go, well, I don't like that, it's rubbish. Like, but for the one I think is rubbish, there might be hundreds of people who think it's brilliant. You know, so stick at it, believe in what you do, and keep going. Like, don't give up.
Great answers. Mark?
Yeah, the only thing I'd add to that, if I was going to give you any extra advice, is I think be willing to be flexible with what you're doing. Because especially if you're going to be in a band rather than a solo artist, because you can go in with a mindset, okay, I'm going to be in this band, I'm going to play this style of music. As soon as you start playing with a guitarist who's really wild and experimental prog rock child, then those expectations are going to go out the window, and you've got to adapt a little bit. But you know, don't set your expectations too rigid, because you will find you will have a hell of a lot more fun doing things that are outside of your comfort zone. And who knows, you may find that you start to like it, and it opens your mind to other types of music that maybe you wouldn't have listened to before.
I'm a great believer in expect the unexpected. So to everyone listening now, thank you, as always, for joining me here on a cup of indie tea demos to discovery with me, your host, Peter Lancellotti. Thank you, all of you, for being here with me today and taking time out of your busy schedules on a Saturday.
They're probably foreigners with ways different than our own. They may do some more folk dancing.
What? I'm cold and I'm wet and I'm just plain scared.
I'm here. There's nothing to worry about.
How'd you do, I see you've met my faithful handyman. He's just a little brought down because when you knocked, he thought you were the candy man. Don't get strung out by the way I look. Don't judge a book by its cover. I'm not much of a man by the light of day, but by night I'm one hell of a lover. I'm just a sweet transvestite from transsexual Transylvania. Let me show you around, maybe play a sound. You look like you're both pretty groovy. Or if you want something visual that's not too abysmal, we can take in an old Steve Reeves movie.
I'm glad we caught you at home. Could we use your phone? We're both in a bit of a hurry.
Right.
We'll just say where we are, then go back worry.
Well, you got caught with a flat. Well, how about that? Well, babies, don't you panic. By the light of the night, it'll all be alright. I'll get you a satanic mechanic. I'm just a sweet transvestite from transsexual Transylvania. Why don't you stay for the night? Or maybe a bite. I can show you my favorite obsession. I've been making a man with blonde hair and a tan, and he's good for relieving my tension. I'm just a sweet transvestite from transsexual Transylvania. Hey, hey, I'm just a sweet transvestite from transsexual Transylvania. So, come up to the lab and see what's on the slab. I see you shiver with anticipation. But maybe the rain is really to blame. So I'll remove the cause. But not the symptom.